Hello and welcome to the next episode in the Bring It Out podcast. And today I'm very excited to introduce Skyler Basco, a tech content creator and the founder of Student to Big Tech. And today we'll be discussing how you can land a high-paying internship in big tech. So Skyler, thank you for joining and please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much, Shuman, for bringing me on. My name is Skyler. I'm a tech content creator. I'm a former PM at Microsoft, and I've also interned at the company for 3 summers throughout college in product management and software engineering. I love creating content on LinkedIn. That's probably like my biggest platform there. I also do YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And right now I'm doing content completely full time and also building my business. So what I do is I coach students to help them land internships and jobs in big tech, specifically more for PM and marketing. I've helped people get into Microsoft, Amazon, Intuit, a couple other companies, and something I generally love doing. And I also love doing content at the same time. So super excited to be here. Can't wait to dive in. Amazing work that you're doing with the podcast. And yeah, let's get started.
All right, great. And for those of you who are new to the show, I'm Juman, a career exploration enthusiast and the creator and host behind the podcast. And you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. So let's go ahead and get started. So, Skylar, a majority of your content is focused on helping people, especially students, land high-paying internships in big tech in companies like Microsoft and Apple. So, in your opinion, what is the biggest lie that students believe about landing a high-paying internship in 2026?
Yeah, for sure. Like that's a super great question there. I think one of the big things is a lot of people think you can only land internships at these companies if you come from a background that's a target school in Ivy League. That is true for a lot of people in finance. So for example, investment banking, a lot of these companies here like Goldman Sachs and everything, they typically just recruit from people from Harvard and all these other top schools. But when it comes to big tech, it's a lot different. So if you position yourself in a way on LinkedIn, for example, where you have a unique edge. Maybe you're building a startup in public, maybe you're creating content, you're providing value to the community, you're doing hackathons, you're winning hackathons, you're creating all these projects and connecting people. You can easily break into big tech without having that Ivy League university or target school degree background. You really don't need any of that credentials to break in. You just have to be super scrappy. So that's the type of people that they hire. They do hire from, of course, these target schools, but on the other side, they also try to give other people who don't have that background a chance. And I personally don't come from a target school degree, target school background, started with no connections, no experience, and was able to work my way up. And so have a lot of other people. And these are the people who have like a really unique edge to them. So it is super possible for anyone to get in. Definitely anyone has a chance as long as you're scrappy, you're curious, you align with what they want in an intern, you can definitely break in. So don't let your lack of qualifications or what you think you're unqualified for stop you from applying. Like literally just go for it.
Thank you for sharing that. And what does an ideal candidate look like on paper versus who's actually getting hired?
Yeah, no, for sure. So when it comes to on paper, are you saying specifically like just for the internships in big tech or like jobs or like
I
in
would say
general?
like both internships and in jobs.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I would say when we start with resumes, like on physical paper, a cool tip that I learned was that recruiters actually look at your resume for 5 to 10 seconds in like an F-shaped heat map. So when they're looking at your resume, they first look at, okay, the top, maybe you have an objective there, you have like a little summary, they're trying to see if you have portfolio links and everything, or like a personal brand. And then they just kind of see if you have the qualifications. And then they scan down the line to actually see if you have any like notable companies or like notable experiences, or they pretty much just look at your first few experiences there. So that was like a really interesting tip. So that's on paper. And another tip is they typically see if you not only fulfill the responsibilities of a role, but you also made an impact. So it's really important to quantify your achievements for every single section of that resume. So that's like really on paper. They're also, of course, seeing like the required qualifications. So of course, if you have like a bachelor's degree, the required coursework, any clubs or organizations or affiliations that you have, A cool thing is like if you're affiliated with diversity organizations like Girls Who Code or maybe Anita B. Org, you might have heard of like Rewriting the Code and other diversity organizations. Some companies actually have a section on their application where they're like, are you a part of these diversity organizations? Because some of them really care about DEI. So if you have that, that really helps you to stand out and shows that you're involved with the community. But yeah, like those are the main things that they typically look for on paper. In addition to that, they want to see if you've ever done anything, like any projects related to the position that you're actually applying for. So beyond the experiences, it's really helpful to have some sort of case studies of projects you've done in the past, because a lot of people list their experiences and what they've done, but is there any proof there? So if you have a personal website, it's really important to link that as well to your resume, maybe your portfolio, your LinkedIn, and the project section at the end. So yeah, with a holistic amount of things here, I know that's a lot of things, but by applying, just case studies of previous work that you've done, making sure that you're quantifying your achievements, and just overall like positioning yourself with a unique edge and theme on your resume, your portfolio on paper, like you're bound to get some sort of internship in the field that you want for sure.
And how do you think AI is, changing what big tech companies are looking for in potential candidates?
Yeah, for sure. Like AI definitely affects a lot of things, because what's happening here is people say, okay, tailor your resume to the job application. And now what's happening is I see a lot of recruiters posting, a lot of recruiters are telling me like, hey, everyone's using the same exact type of resume format, or they're using AI to write a cover letter, and it's all become robotic. It's all become the same. So because of that, I feel like we're shifting into a world where landing jobs in person and having that in-person connection is going to be a lot more useful than just applying online or finding other ways to do it besides just mass applying, because everyone is now submitting an application using like AI, all these AI tools and their cover letters, and even like interview answers, like all these like interview tools like to cheat and everything. We all know what those are. But yeah, there's a specific way to land internships in person, and essentially it shows that you're taking the initiative to go there, prepare, do the research in the company, going there in person, because not a lot of people will invest in that. You're taking the flight, potentially transportation, hotel, and everything. It takes a lot more effort to go to these conferences in person than just submitting an application online. Another thing is when it comes to like standing out in this whole age of AI, it's really important to have a personal brand, because at the end of the day, like at some point in your career, if you want to go down the whole 9-to-5 path, you will experience a layoff or like getting your offer rescinded or wanting to quit a job, wanting to hop onto a new career path. So in this whole age of AI, having a personal brand will make you super irreplaceable. And if you can position yourself to a point where you're an expert in your field, even if you don't have much experience, you can get a job anytime, whether that be through your network and connections. If you're super good at networking, you can leverage that. Or if you have high visibility, you're really good at creating content, you're consistent, you can land a job in any time and then attract LinkedIn email invites from recruiters who will be asking you to apply to their position if you just make one post about like, hey, I just got laid off, give me a job, or like, I want to get a referral. If you position yourself in that way, you would be absolutely unstoppable in the whole age of AI.
This actually fits very well into the next question that I was about to ask you. What kind of cold outreach message actually gets a response from a recruiter at a big tech company?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I can give you an example of a cold message that worked for me. And why this worked for me was because actually I was going to attend this conference. It was called Grace Hopper Celebration. And I found a specific recruiter who posted that they were going to go to that conference. Or I don't think it was a recruiter. I think it was like one of their executives, actually like a VP of some sort of field at that company. And I messaged him before and I was like, hey, I'm actually going to go to the conference and I applied to this role, like super excited to meet you there. And they actually replied back. And then I met them at the conference. said, hey, like, oh, I was the one who pitched to you on LinkedIn, and I also really love your product. This is what I would do, and I would love to visit the New York City office, this and that. I did a lot of research on the company itself, and that person was actually really impressed with it. And they checked out my LinkedIn profile and they were like, oh my God, I love your content. And then I followed up with them. They said they would give me a referral from that cold message purely. And I got a referral, got an interview just from that whole sequence. So it was a lot more effort behind the scenes than just a cold message, but that tends to work. Another example of a cold message, and by the way, like, cold messages typically don't work unless you have some sort of mutual connection to them. Like, you're going to attend a conference that they're attending, or maybe like you're part of a mutual group, or maybe you're part of, you know, their alumni, like you went to their school. Sometimes it does work if maybe you have a big personal brand, or you have that like LinkedIn top voice badge, or you have some sort of credibility to you, something of value to provide. So that is the exception. But it's so much better to do it when you're going to be forced into the same space. So another time when that worked for me was actually the first time when I got a referral from someone at Microsoft who did a Microsoft internship. That's how I got my first Microsoft internship. I was in one of these like diversity mentorship programs called Out in Tech. We both did the program together and we both presented. I complimented this person's demo. We chatted up for a bit. We went on a call. Cold message him a couple more times. Well, not really cold message at that point. And then eventually got the referral and also got access to what a good cover letter looks like, how to pass the Microsoft interviews, and etc. So beyond the cold message, it's also about nurturing the person, nurturing the relationship in some way after that. Just a pure cold message with no context and like no value you could potentially provide to the person typically is not successful. So it's important to do the back end work to make sure you actually close the opportunity that you want from the cold message.
Thank you for sharing that. How can students with zero connections and, like you said, they didn't go to a target school, how can they differentiate themselves from other applicants as they're applying for these internships?
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. So that's a super great question. And I'll actually give an example of how I personally did it and a few examples of how other people have done it as well. The main angle that I wanted to use was my content creation. So I started posting on LinkedIn about maybe 3 years ago when it wasn't as hot or popular or trendy. It was cringe to post on LinkedIn. And I also was posting a lot of YouTube videos about just tech, like coding, just really stupid stuff, like coding while eating spicy wings, or like, I think I did coding on an Apple Watch. I'm not sure if it's still up. And I just did weird, silly videos. And that was the angle that I used to write my essay responses for the first ever Microsoft internship that I got into. It was called the Microsoft New Text program. It's not open anymore. There's now Microsoft Explore. But I leveraged content creation in pretty much every single essay and anytime I did that interview for that internship position. And that's how I got in. Because I knew a lot of people, they had the background. Some people were really good at coding. Some people were really good at public speaking. They were organizing their own events. They're doing hackathons. And I didn't really have skills like that. I'm not the best coder. I'm not the smartest in the room. I think for me, I just had the consistency of content creation. I genuinely love building community in that way. So I leveraged that own unique edge. For some people, and even for me actually, when I first started, I also did some hackathons, got some projects under your belt, because when you have no experience, how else are you going to get experience? By essentially doing things for free at the beginning. So I started doing hackathons so I can build up projects under my belt, so I can put that on my resume, and I can also put that on my portfolio, on my LinkedIn profile, and I can also talk about it in interviews. So even though I didn't have any formal experience, I still showed that I'm scrappy, I could still make an impact, and I know what I'm doing. I can learn on the spot, I can code, I can collaborate with people, I can design. So as long as you show that you can physically do things, even if it's not formal experience, as long as you can talk about it in your interviews, you'll be all set. And that's how you can first start out, especially if you're breaking into tech. And yeah, I would say that's probably the main way to do it. As long as you have the combination of that personal brand that you're building and then a few projects under your belt, you'll be super unstoppable in the whole process. even if you don't come from a background where you have that advantage of a target school.
In your opinion, do you think it would be more beneficial for students to have multiple small projects or just one really big one?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question there. So I think when it comes to projects, it's better to have quality over quantity. So, for example, it's better to have a project where you interviewed a lot of users and you showed how the project could make an impact on the community. And maybe you even sold this project to a business. Maybe you even developed the website for the business and it created some ROI from them. So it increased the amount of conversions that they have and gave them more customers, made them more money, etc. Because when you make an impact on a company or you make an impact for an organization, you're able to quantify this achievement on your resume and frame it as some sort of position. So let's just say, like, even if you're creating like a free website for a small business, you can position yourself on your resume as a software engineering intern at that company or a software engineering contractor at that company, and that's a loophole to get that experience. And recruiters, again, they want to see your impact and not necessarily what you did, but the ROI that you drive, whether it be the impact on the company, the customers, the people, the team, the business. So it's really important to have that quality project that makes an impact over a few small projects that really did nothing. Oh my God, my light went out, sorry. But yeah, it's super important to have something of quality of impact because it shows what you're going to do for the company in your upcoming role.
And how can starting a personal brand early on give students a huge advantage as they go through these applications?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like I mentioned before, when it comes to building your personal brand, the main advantage that it has brought me was it gave me access to opportunities that other students who don't have a personal brand would not be able to access. So on one hand, there's a pile of students who are mass applying to all these jobs and internships. And then there's another set of students who are building a personal brand, creating content, and positioning themselves as an expert in their field. And they are attracting the opportunities to them instead of chasing. So what happens in the case where you have a LinkedIn profile and you're consistently posting, you will inevitably get, for example, recruiter LinkedIn email invites. And in these invites, you will get a link to a job application that essentially, if you apply to this, it is a special link that pretty much moves you directly into the interview round because the recruiter scouted you for it. So once you tell the recruiter, okay, I just applied, they will move you directly to that round. And that's an advantage that a lot of people don't have if they don't optimize their LinkedIn profile properly. And it also gets you a lot of different opportunities. It gets you speaking opportunities. It gets you kind of like this. It's like how you approach me and everything, which is super cool. And it gets you brand deal opportunities. It gets you hackathon opportunities. Maybe you'll find your next co-founder. Maybe you'll find the next person, the next content creator you'll collaborate with. Maybe you'll find your next professional friend. There are so many opportunities that you will get that are hidden, that are only there if you put yourself out there and make yourself visible. And yeah, this doesn't only apply to just online, but also applies in your internship as well. Making yourself visible to the team and your coworkers will help you increase your chances of getting a return offer. So having a personal brand is super important, both online and also in person within your career. And I think it's always super important to just vouch for yourself, to be your biggest advocate, because we all know the phrase like closed mouths don't get fed. So honestly, be very audacious and just flex your work and someone will come to you. The right people will come to you.
Does having a referral still count as like the golden ticket in your opinion, or like has the process changed a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So I would say it definitely means a lot less than it did before. I am not exactly sure how it works for each specific company, but I would say at this point, having referral has now become the bare minimum. Come to a point where even the referral won't guarantee that you get an interview because there's so many like competitive people out there, so many people mass applying nowadays. When it comes to startups, for example, a referral as in kind of like a warm connection, someone who's in the startup who then refers you and sends an email to the founder will help a lot more than just a regular referral at a big tech company. Because I know some people who have gotten referrals at, for example, these big tech Fortune 500 companies, and they still don't land the interview. And there's people who don't even get referred and they land the interview. So it's pretty random, especially now with the Fortune 500 companies. With startups, it helps a lot more because there's a lot less people at these companies. But I would say just in the bare minimum, if you really want to break into big tech and Fortune 500, if you don't know anyone personally at the company and there's really not many alumni connections or those associated groups, volume really counts. It's really important to provide a cold message to as many people. Just shoot your shot. If it's like 100 people per week, which is, I know it's overkill, but if you really want a referral, you're going to identify a couple people who work at the company that you want to intern at. Shoot your shot, cold message them, try to hop on a coffee chat with them so that by the time recruiting season rolls around for that company, the internship comes out, you have 10 people who could potentially vouch for you. As long as you built that relationship with them, you connected with them in some way, you provided value, and you have 10 people, for example, who can give you a referral to that company. So it could slightly help. It could honestly be a bare minimum at this point, but for startups, I know that it definitely helps a lot to have those referrals and like warm lead connections.
Talk to me about your work in the Student to Big Tech Bootcamp. How is this program helping students maximize their chances at landing their dream internships?
Yeah, no, for sure. So at Student to Big Tech, one of the main things I do that is different from a lot of the programs out there is I teach the LinkedIn inbound method. So the LinkedIn inbound method is basically the method I described before, positioning yourself in a way that gets you to attract recruiters in your DM so that they're sending you these opportunities directly so you don't have to manually scout them out. And this method has allowed my students to get offers at Microsoft, Amazon, Intuit, HP, like all these other Fortune 500 companies. For example, Amazon is one of those companies, I've talked to some people, where the best way to get into that specific company, especially for internships and maybe the early career full-time positions, is when the recruiter scouts you out directly, because then you have that special link to apply and they will automatically move you to the interview round. So that's one of the best ways to break into big tech. And it is a combination of luck, but also you can create that luck for yourself. So I want to teach people how to create content on LinkedIn, even if they don't want to become a content creator, because creating content on LinkedIn, positioning yourself, optimizing your LinkedIn profile will take you far in your career in not just landing that first internship, but it will build an everlasting personal brand that will allow you to land a job at any time so that you can build that network, you can attract opportunities so that you're never going without a job or you're never going without an internship. Like you're going to feel reassured and confident that no matter what happens to you, you'll always have that asset to go back to. And my aim is, not to prepare them just for landing that internship, but to set them up for success in the rest of their career.
Thank you for that. And we know that AI is screening resumes now. So how do we, tailor our resumes to survive the robot that sees it, but also cater in a way that's appealing to the human that's also going to be reading the resume as well?
Yeah, no, 100% for sure. When it comes to the ATS screening and the whole thing about AI scanning all these resumes, is one thing I noticed is that like the formatting is really important. So the formatting has to be clean, readable, making sure that everything is lined. Fonts are very consistent, because when I review a lot of students' resumes, it tends to be a specific pattern where they're not using a specific template or format. The formatting is off. Because what happens is if you don't format things correctly in the ATS, some things could get lost. Maybe it's not scanned properly. So as simple as it may seem, it actually is really important to make sure that your resume is like designed in a correct way. It's readable, it's formatted well. So that's like one simple thing. The second thing is I would really try to, in a sense, avoid using AI tools for the entirety of your resume. Try to add some flair of personality and unique edge into it. So just in case it's a recruiter manually reviewing your resume, they will see that you're not using AI. Like we can all tell when you're using AI to write your resume. And this especially goes for career conferences as well. When I was writing my resume, I made sure to add some flair personality. Like I would put some colors in there. I would actually put like my content creation. I would talk about content creation on there. I would talk about some personal projects I did. Had a little bit of flair. I wouldn't put like any hobbies outside of that. I wouldn't put anything non-related to like professional career or tech space if you're trying to break into tech roles. But having some unique edge to you in your resume will definitely help you stand out, especially if there's recruiters who are reviewing them manually. And this especially helps with startups too. Some startups are more creative, they're more design oriented, or they're more scrappy, entrepreneurial. So especially with them, if you submit a resume that is unique, and not like everybody else, like the whole Times New Roman, like professionally formatted and everything, something that looks innovative, you will definitely stand out as a candidate. So it really depends on the company that you're trying to target. But I would say for like the smaller companies especially, like if you try to just avoid using AI for a second and put your personality, put your personal voice into your resume, sometimes that's one of the best ways to stand out. And that's what I actually did. I used unconventional methods to create my resume. It ended up like landing a lot of interviews at this one conference, and I didn't use AI at all for that. I just completely infused my personality and just the way I like to design things.
And are there any books or resources that you would like to share with the viewers that you personally found helpful?
Yeah, for sure. So 100%. There are two books that I highly recommend for people to read, especially if you're trying to get into software engineering or product management. The first one for coding is Cracking the Coding Interview. So this helped me get into my Microsoft Explore internship. I've been like so bad at coding. I'm still bad at coding to this day. And that book saved me so much because I didn't really know much about data structures by the time I had that Microsoft Explore interview coming up. I did take a class, it was like an online class, but I didn't really know how to apply that to the actual coding interviews. But that one really helped when it comes to behavioral interviews and coding interviews. And then for product management interviews, I highly recommend Cracking the PM Interview. It's the same exact book. It's the same exact author who wrote like both books, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, Cracking the PM Interview is probably the number one resource for breaking into PM internships. I highly recommend reading through the whole thing, getting a sense of the frameworks. That book honestly saved me. Like that actually, it's so life-changing. So if you're a PM, software engineer, like those books are pretty much mandatory to read in order to pass it. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the main things. And when it comes to more of the mindset side, something that helped me stay grounded is Think and Grow Rich and then Atomic Habits. Think and Grow Rich is just really amplifying your mindset. Like the recruiting process is not just about the whole technical aspect and then preparing for interviews. It's also the side of, do you feel that you have the ability to land these offers? Like, do you feel in your mind that you're confident in yourself enough to pass these interviews? Are you confident enough to get the interviewers to like you? Do you know within your heart you're going to land these offers? If you genuinely feel that, but also at the same time detached from the outcome, like you will be absolutely unstoppable in the recruiting process, because it takes a lot of confidence and audacity to go through these processes. The people who get into these internships are not necessarily humble. Like I wouldn't recommend staying humble in interviews at all. It's a good mix of flexing your achievements, but also staying likable as well. I know this is a super like a huge tangent there, but I absolutely love that book. And the same thing for that other one. Also love, I think, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's also a really good one when it comes to talking with other people, especially interviewers, getting people to like you, getting hiring managers to like you, getting recruiters to like you. It's a general book, but super amazing. Like great sauce, not just for recruiting process, but also for life in general.
And as we come to the end of today's episode, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just like general advice for anyone in life, or like whether you're starting a business, you're breaking into big tech, you're trying to land an internship, or you're lost in your career, you don't know what to do, it's super simple. And I saw this from Alex Hormozy, like he's like a business like entrepreneur, probably like one of the biggest like business content creators out there. He said, do so much volume that it is literally impossible for you to be successful. So a lot of people think like, okay, they're stuck and they will never be successful, they will never break in, or they will never raise a certain amount of money, they will never achieve this much. If you literally just put in more time and more reps every single day and continue to implement feedback and improve and learn from your experience and get a little bit better every single day, 1%, like you will eventually get there. You will be successful. You just have to delay that gratification and you will eventually get there. Like there is no way that you won't become successful as long as you literally just keep going, stay consistent, and improving a little bit every time. The only way you won't become successful is if you just give up. So just stay in tune and you'll literally achieve anything you want in life.
Thank you so much, Skylar. I really enjoyed this talk with you.
Thank you so much, Shuman, for inviting me on. So excited to be here and great work you're doing. Can't wait to see all the other episodes we have. And yeah, peace everyone.